All right, listener. So you're ready to kind of reclaim your joy after a breakup, right? Uncrushing the crush is supposed to be like your guide, and we're going deep with this one today. I'm really curious to kind of get your take on this whole process, expert speaker. What do you think about this idea of approaching heartbreak as something we can strategically move on from?
I think it's really empowering to realize that we're not just like these passive victims of heartbreak.
Yeah.
There's a real science to it. And understanding how our brains actually react to a breakup gives us the power to actually take control of our healing.
Yeah, and the book kind of dives right into that science, explaining how breakups actually hurt physically. It's like our brains are going through withdrawal from those love hormones we're used to getting from our exes.
Exactly. Like think about it. Dopamine and oxytocin, those feel-good chemicals, they're
Mhm.
being replaced with like a stress response.
Yeah.
No wonder it feels so awful.
Yeah.
But the good news is we can retrain our brains.
And that's where this idea of strategic detachment comes in, right? Not ignoring the pain, but consciously choosing where we focus our energy.
Yes. And it's tougher than it sounds.
Yeah.
Imagine like a well-worn path in your brain that represents your ex and all those memories associated with them. That path is deep because you've walked it so often.
Mm.
So strategic detachment is about forging a new path, even if it's just a faint trail at first.
Okay, so how do we actually create that new path? The book mentions this technique called thought stopping, which sounds a bit like mental whack-a-mole. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's about catching those intrusive thoughts about your ex as they pop up,
Mm.
and then gently redirecting your attention elsewhere. It's not about suppression. It's more like choosing a different channel on your mental TV.
Okay, that makes sense. But what do we switch to? I mean, you can only watch so many cat videos, right?
Well, the book offers this great visualization technique. They call it the file cabinet hack. Imagine a mental file cabinet filled with your happiest memories. Not just any memories, but ones completely unrelated to your ex.
That's interesting. So instead of dwelling on the past relationship, you're ready to pull out a positive memory when those intrusive thoughts hit. What makes this technique so effective, in your opinion?
Well, it's about retraining your brain's attention. You're actively choosing to focus on things that bring you joy and strength, instead of letting those negative thought patterns take over.
I like that. Listener, we want you in on this too. What are three memories you would put in your file cabinet? Take a moment to really visualize them. What do you see? What do you hear? What are you feeling?
Those positive memories? They're powerful tools. The more you revisit them, the stronger those new neural pathways become.
Okay, so we've got our mental file cabinet stocked. What's next? The book talks about this idea of action as antidote. It seems to be about being proactive instead of just sitting around moping.
Absolutely. Action is crucial for healing. It's not just about distraction. Every time you engage in a new activity, reconnect with an old hobby, or try something completely new, you're literally rewiring your brain to kind of break free from that old relationship pattern.
So instead of just distracting ourselves, we're actually growing and evolving.
Precisely. You're creating new experiences and new neural pathways that are separate from the relationship that ended. It's a powerful way to reclaim your sense of self.
That makes a lot of sense. But what about those raw, intense emotions that seem impossible to escape? The book suggests this exercise called the unsent letter. What are your thoughts on this approach? It seems a bit intense.
Well, it can be cathartic for some people. The idea is to write a letter to your ex, pouring out all your raw emotions. The anger, the hurt, the confusion, but you never actually send it. It's more about expressing and releasing those feelings than dwelling in them.
Right, and some people might find it hard to burn those letters after pouring their heart out. What are some other ways to kind of get that symbolic release?
There are many ways to achieve that sense of closure. Some people find it helpful to rip the letters up, toss them in the ocean, or even bury them. It's about finding a ritual that feels right for you.
I guess it's like creating a physical representation of letting go.
Exactly. The act of physically releasing those feelings can be surprisingly therapeutic.
Okay, so we've talked about the science behind heartbreak strategic detachment, the file cabinet hack and action as antidote. But moving on isn't just about forgetting, it's also about learning and growing, right?
Absolutely. Uncrushing the crush encourages you to reflect on the relationship, to analyze what went right, what went wrong, and ultimately to learn from the experience.
It seems like a lot of work, honestly. Why is it so important to revisit a painful experience?
Think of it as turning pain into wisdom. Breakups can be powerful teachers if we're willing to learn from them. This process helps you understand what you truly want and need in a partner, what red flags to watch out for in the future.
So it's not just about dwelling on the past, it's about using that knowledge to create a better future. I like that. The book also emphasizes self-love and self-care. Why is that so important after a breakup?
Well, when a relationship ends, It's easy to lose sight of our own worth and start defining ourselves through the lens of that loss. This is a time to reconnect with yourself, rediscover your passions, and rebuild your sense of self-worth.
So it's about treating ourselves with kindness and compassion during a difficult time.
Yes, and remembering that we are worthy of love and happiness, regardless of our relationship status.
I love that. It's a great reminder that we are complete and whole on our own.
And that's a powerful foundation for attracting healthy and fulfilling relationships in the future.
Okay, listener, we've covered a lot of ground here, from the science of heartbreak to the power of self-love. We've explored some of the key insights from uncrushing the crush, but there's more to come.
In part 2, we'll delve into the concept of giving back as a path forward. Explore the dangers of the rebound and tackle some listener questions. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into uncrushing the crush, listener. We're picking up where we left off, exploring ways to kind of reclaim your joy after a breakup. And one idea that really stood out to me was this suggestion to channel our energy into giving back. The book calls it Giving Back as a Path Forward, and I'm curious to hear your take on it, expert speaker.
It's a powerful reminder that even in the midst of heartbreak, we still have the capacity to make a difference in the world. Shifting our focus outward, even in small ways, can be incredibly healing.
Yeah, it seems kind of counterintuitive, right, when you're hurting.
Yeah,
The natural inclination is to focus inward, not outward.
it is. It's easy to get caught up in our own pain and forget that there are others out there who might be struggling even more. So whether it's volunteering, donating to a cause you believe in, or simply offering a helping hand to a friend or neighbor, these acts of kindness can really shift our perspective and remind us of the good that still exists in the world.
Yeah, I can see how helping others could help us feel more connected, less isolated, especially during a time when we're probably feeling pretty alone.
Exactly. And those connections that we forge through shared purpose and compassion, they can be incredibly enriching. It's a beautiful way to kind of transform pain into positive action.
So instead of dwelling on what we've lost, we're channeling our energy into something meaningful and creating those positive new experiences. What are some ways that listeners could actually put this into practice?
Oh, there are countless ways to give back, big and small. It could be volunteering at a local animal shelter, mentoring a young person, or simply offering a listening ear to someone who needs it. The key is to find something that aligns with your values and your interest.
It's almost like a form of self-care, right? It's nurturing our own hearts while helping others.
Absolutely. It's a win-win.
Okay, so we've talked about giving back, but there's another potential pitfall the book addresses, the rebound relationship. It seems like such a natural impulse after a breakup, but uncrushing the crush advises against it. Why is that?
Well, it's tempting to seek comfort in a new relationship, right? To fill that void left by our ex. But jumping into something new before we've fully healed can actually do more harm than good.
It's like putting a Band-Aid on a wound that needs stitches.
Exactly. It's a temporary fix that might mask the pain, but it won't address the underlying issues.
So what's the alternative? Just sit around and wallow in our heartbreak?
Not at all. This is a precious time for self-discovery and growth. Think of it as an opportunity to nurture yourself, explore your passions, and reconnect with who you are outside of the context of a relationship.
It's almost like pressing the reset button, isn't it?
Exactly. The chance to reevaluate your priorities. Figure out what you truly want in a partner, and build a strong foundation of self-love before entering into a new relationship.
Yeah, and the book uses this great analogy of tending a garden. You wouldn't rush to plant new seeds right after a frost, right?
Exactly. You need to nurture the soil, remove the weeds,
Yeah.
and create a healthy environment for those new seeds to thrive.
So taking time for ourselves after a breakup isn't selfish. It's essential for future growth and happiness.
Absolutely. It's an act of self-compassion and wisdom.
Now, I know you've read countless books on relationships and heartbreak. What stood out to you about Uncrushing the Crush compared to others you've read?
You know what I really appreciated about this book? It's incredibly practical and action-oriented. It doesn't just dwell on the emotional aspects of heartbreak. It provides concrete tools and techniques that readers can implement immediately to start feeling better and moving forward.
It's like a step-by-step guide to getting over your ex.
Right, exactly. It's not just theory. It's a roadmap for healing.
And I think that's what makes it so effective. It empowers readers to take control of their healing process instead of feeling like they're at the mercy of their emotions.
I couldn't agree more.
All right, listener, we've explored the importance of giving back, the dangers of rebound relationships, and the book's unique approach to healing. In part 3, we'll be diving into listener questions and offering some final thoughts on reclaiming your joy after a breakup. Welcome back, listener. We're wrapping up our deep dive into Uncrushing the Crush, and we've saved the best for last, listener questions. We got so many thoughtful questions from people going through it and expert speaker.
Yeah.
I was hoping we could offer some insight. What stood out to you from the questions we received?
You know what really struck me was how many people are struggling with those lingering feelings for their ex. Even after trying all the techniques in the book, it's a reminder that healing isn't linear. It's more of a spiral. We might feel like we're moving forward one day, and then, bam, get pulled back into the past the next.
Yeah, that's so relatable. It's easy to get discouraged when those feelings kind of pop up unexpectedly. And the book talks about those pesky neural pathways associated with our ex, those well-worn paths in our brain. It takes time and effort to rewire those pathways, even with all the best tools.
And let's be honest, sometimes those external triggers, they can really set us back. A song, a familiar place, a random memory, it can all bring those feelings rushing back.
So what can we do when that happens? The book mentions the file cabinet technique can be really helpful here.
Absolutely. Having those positive memories readily available, it's like having a mental first aid kit when those old feelings surface. You can intentionally shift your focus to those happy, empowering memories.
Yeah, it's like reminding ourselves that we have a whole life outside of that relationship, a life filled with joy and meaning. What other advice would you give to someone struggling with those kind of persistent feelings for their ex?
Be patient with yourself. Don't judge yourself for having those feelings. Acknowledge them. Allow yourself to feel them, but don't let them define you. Remember, it's a process, and you're moving forward, even if it doesn't feel like it all the time.
We also had a few questions about navigating friendships after a breakup, especially those mutual friends you shared with your ex. Any tips on how to handle that tricky situation?
Well, honesty and open communication are key. Let your friends know that you value their friendship and that you're not asking them to choose sides. Explain that you might need some space in certain social situations and that you appreciate their understanding.
It's about setting healthy boundaries, right? And prioritizing your own well-being during a really sensitive time. And if those friendships can weather the storm, they'll likely emerge even stronger.
Absolutely. Genuine friends will understand and respect your needs.
Okay, one last question that came up a few times. What if your ex is already in a new relationship? How do you deal with seeing them move on while you're still processing the breakup?
Oof, that stings. It's natural to feel a pang of jealousy or even a sense of rejection. But it's so important to remember that everyone heals at their own pace. Their new relationship, it's not a reflection on you or the value of your past relationship.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in comparisons, but it's important to focus on our own journey. Their relationship is their journey, and yours is yours.
Exactly. And let's be real, sometimes people jump into new relationships to avoid dealing with their own pain. So it might not be as picture perfect as it seems.
Right, focus on your own healing,
Yeah.
your own growth, your own happiness. This is a time to prioritize yourself, to rebuild your self-worth, and to create a life that brings you joy. Their choices and their path are irrelevant to your own journey of healing and self-discovery.
I think that's a great takeaway. And it's a reminder that we have the power to choose how we respond to heartbreak. We can choose to let it define us, or we can choose to use it as a catalyst for growth and positive change.
So much of this comes down to mindset, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Our thoughts and beliefs shape our reality. If we choose to focus on the pain and the loss, that's what we'll experience. But if we choose to focus on the lessons learned, the growth, and the possibilities ahead, that's what we'll attract into our lives.
It's about reclaiming our power, taking ownership of our healing, and creating a future filled with joy, love, and meaningful connections. Listener, if you're going through a breakup, remember you're not alone. We've all been there, and we believe in your strength and resilience.
You've got this. Embrace the joy of freedom. Take care of yourself, and trust that brighter days are ahead.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into uncrushing the crush. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and tools to help you navigate your own journey of healing and growth. Until next time, keep those hearts open and those minds curious.
And remember, even in the midst of heartbreak, there's always something to learn, something to grow from, and something to celebrate.
We'll see you next time on the deep dive.